Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to Benchart. So for today, what I do have here is a quick look at Starfield running on the Xbox Series S. So my objective with this video was kind of have a very quick comparison in between my GTX 1650 and the Xbox Series S. And so one of the key differences that I noticed immediately is that if you are playing with an HDR TV, there is a huge difference in brightness and color and everything. But this is just small things, alright? One of the things about the Xbox Series S, it is locked to 30 frames per second. In fact, both Xbox consoles are locked to 30 frames per second. And given this is a first-person shooter, this is not really the best decision ever, especially for the Series X, but for the Series S it's kind of understandable given the lack of power that this machine have, which in fact is, well, very close to my 1650 Super. Now, but other big difference that I did notice in comparison with my GTX 1650 Super is that I don't really exactly know what settings this console is running the game, but if I would have to bet, I would say that this console, as far as I am aware, it runs at 900p and reconstructs to 1440p, so there is actually more detail, but this is already confirmed by developers. But when it comes to settings, what it looks like is that it is using median settings compared to the PC version. There might be one thing at high, other at low, I don't exactly know. But above all of the differences that I've noticed is that, like I told you in the last video, the 1650 Super doesn't seem to be loading all the textures at full resolution in some areas, especially on the latest sequence on New Atlantis, where I go by some flags. My 1650 Super had trouble to load the maximum quality of those textures, while the Xbox Series S doesn't seem to have that issue. It seems to load the entire texture complexity, which doesn't really surprise me given that the 4 gigabytes of VRAM for the 1650 Super, I mean, 4 gigabytes of VRAM today in many recent games starts to be kind of a very big limiting factor. And despite how weak the Series S is, and although memory features compared to the bigger brothers, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, it still have more memory than a 4 gigabyte graphic card on PC. So developers usually can push more textures than what we see on the 1650 Super, obviously if they want, and depends on how the optimization is done on the game. But the reality it is for Starfield, yes, the Series S delivers greater textures. Although not everything is roses or good news. For example, one of the things that I've noticed is that especially in New Atlantis and especially on the latest sequences, the latest sequences that I had on this video, it is possible to notice some stuttering going on, some drop in frame rate below 30 frames per second in New Atlantis on Series S, while for example on my PC at low settings, that, well, it is worse settings, alright, but I don't see any stuttering going by on my PC if I play at low settings and walk at 30 frames per second. While on Series S, during those city moments, I can actually notice some drops. Obviously, this is the first version of the game for both my PC and console. Who knows if Bethesda can improve its performance in the future. But so far, given that it is on the main city and it is not to be expected to to be shooting in here and require all the fluidity going on with the game, having these lights that are, it doesn't really, it isn't really a big issue to me. It is still an issue, but it is not a big deal in my opinion. If this would happen in combat areas, well, that for me would be really bad in my opinion. But since it's not really the case, I don't really care about it, to be honest. It's noticeable, it's, well, disappointing, but it's not really a big deal in my point of view. I would prefer to play with decent textures, but having these stutters in these non-combat areas. Well, I can shoot anyone in here, but it's not going to happen in regular quests, I think. I prefer to have these high-resolution textures than play on my PC with, you know, lock 30 frames per second with no stutters, but then textures fails to load all the time, flags have very low resolution quality. I don't like that. So probably if I had to choose in between a Series S or a 1650 Super in this case, I would probably go with Series S. Although if you have a slightly better graphic card than the 1650 Super and you have more VRAM, probably 8 GB graphic card, probably a 6 GB might be enough for that. You can go with it, honestly, because if this flags textures loads decently for you at median settings, 1080p, and if you run at 30 frames per second with your card and your card have 6 or 8 GB, go with that, alright? But in this case, if you have a 4 GB graphic card at least, or something in the level of the 1650 Super, just, well, you're not going to have the same experience as the Series S. Series S will win. So that's all that I want to talk about performance on the Xbox Series S. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.